Story that I think you'll find fascinating. Maitland Ward.
Hmm.
You probably know her best from her time on Boy Meets World, but her journey since then has taken some really interesting turns.
Yeah, it's a story that really makes you think about the pressures of Hollywood and, self-discovery, taking control of your own narrative.
Yeah, exactly. So today we're going to go beyond just, the headlines and try to really understand like what drove this career shift that Maitland had, how she navigated this industry, what her experiences reveal about these societal norms and expectations that we all kind of grapple with.
Well, and what's so interesting about Maitland's story is that she didn't just change careers. She chose an industry that challenges a lot of those deep ingrained societal beliefs.
Yeah. Okay, so let's rewind a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember Maitland Ward as Rachel McGuire, the confident and cool girl on Boy Meets World. She became a fan favorite like almost instantly.
Right. And it's interesting to think about, that kind of fame because it can be a double-edged sword, especially for younger actors. I mean, you get typecast so easily, and the pressure to keep up that image can be just immense.
Oh, absolutely. And Maitland has spoken about feeling limited by those roles that she had early on. But even then, she was always drawn to these characters who pushed the boundaries, challenged expectations. It's really interesting.
Yeah, think about like her role in the movie White Chicks. It was a comedic role for sure, but she was playing with gender stereotypes and perceptions of beauty, and it's almost like she was experimenting with these different forms of self-expression even back then, testing the waters.
Okay, so now I'm seeing the connections here. Knowing this, her decision to transition into adult entertainment in 2019, maybe, I don't know, maybe it shouldn't have been as shocking as it was.
Right. But it definitely got people talking. I mean, it was a very bold move, especially considering the stigma that is still attached to the adult entertainment industry.
For sure. And Maitland herself has been very vocal about her reasons behind this. She talks about wanting to take control of her own narrative and explore these parts of herself that she felt were being suppressed by mainstream entertainment.
Yeah.
This wasn't just a career change. It was almost like a declaration of self-ownership.
And I think what's really important to note is that it wasn't just about personal liberation. It was a challenge to the societal norms that try to often dictate how women, especially women in the public eye, should behave and how they should express themselves.
Right. She was basically saying, I'm not going to play by your rules anymore, which is, let's be honest, a pretty powerful message.
Yeah, it is. And it actually speaks to a larger shift that's been happening, culturally. People are rejecting these traditional expectations around sexuality and self-expression. And Maitland's story becomes this fascinating case study within that larger trend.
Totally. Okay, so she makes this huge decision to go headfirst into this completely different industry, and she thrives. Like, she's not just participating, she's winning awards, she's being recognized for her talent and for her professionalism.
Her success is really significant. I mean, for example, winning the AVN Award for Female Performer of the Year in 2021 is a huge accomplishment in the adult film world. It demonstrates that she's not just making a statement, she's actually excelling in this really demanding, often unforgiving industry.
And she completely changes the script on how we typically view adult entertainment. I mean, she challenges us to consider that maybe there's more depth, more artistry, and certainly more agency involved than we've been led to believe.
You're hitting on a crucial point there because by achieving success on her own terms in this industry, that's often dismissed as exploitative. She's forcing us to reevaluate our assumptions and our biases about it.
This is where it gets even more interesting. Because Maitland's decision was about this, like personal liberation, but it also became about something bigger, advocacy, challenging societal norms. But before we jump into that, I think we need to acknowledge that not everyone applauded this decision. She actually faced a lot of criticism and judgment for the choices that she made.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be pretty naive to think that a move this big wouldn't come with some pushback.
Absolutely. And I think the criticism that she got just reflects how deeply uncomfortable people are with, anything that really challenges those conventional views of sexuality and female agency.
Yeah. But what I think is so admirable is that Maitland never shied away from it. She addressed it like head on. And in doing so, turned it into this opportunity for dialogue.
It's almost as if she anticipated that backlash and decided to use it as a platform to further her message, the self-ownership and empowerment.
And she did it with such grace and confidence, too. I remember reading an interview where she said, people will always have opinions, but at the end of the day, this is my life and I'm the one who has to live it. I'm going to do it on my own terms.
That statement really encapsulates her whole philosophy. She's not seeking approval. She's asserting her right to make her own choices, even if those choices make other people feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, and it's just so refreshing to see someone so unapologetically themselves, especially in an industry that so often, tries to fit people into these neat little boxes.
And the ripple effect of that kind of authenticity is huge. It really does embolden others to question those norms and to pursue their own paths, regardless of what anyone else thinks.
It's a really important point because Maitland's story, while it is unique, I think the themes, self-discovery, breaking free from expectations, taking control of your narrative, I mean, those are universal. We've all felt that pressure at some point to conform, to live
Right.
up to someone else's idea of who we should be.
Right. And that's where Maitland's story becomes so powerful because it reminds us that we have the power, to define our own lives, to write our own stories.
And she doesn't stop there. She takes it even a step further and becomes this vocal advocate for sex positivity and destigmatizing the adult entertainment industry.
Which in itself is a pretty radical act when you think about it. She's using her platform to challenge these deeply ingrained societal taboos and bring these conversations out into the open.
And she talks openly about these important topics too, like consent, body autonomy,
Mhm.
respecting sex workers. And she does it in a way that's informative but also engaging, breaking down these complex issues without being preachy or judgmental.
That's such a crucial element of her advocacy, I think. She's not lecturing, she's inviting people to think critically and
Right.
question their assumptions, which
Yeah.
I think is a much more effective approach than just trying to shame people into changing their minds.
It's funny because when you look at like her whole career, the through line is really clear. Whether it was choosing roles that challenge gender stereotypes in those mainstream films
Hmm.
or advocating for the rights of sex workers, she's always been pushing those boundaries and fighting for greater representation and understanding.
It really does reframe that career shift as just a continuation of this lifelong commitment to, challenging the status quo. And it becomes less about seeking shock value and more about using her platform to make a real difference.
And it's interesting to think about her potential return to mainstream acting.
That would be fascinating to see, wouldn't it? It could actually signal a shift in how Hollywood views actors with those diverse backgrounds and experiences.
Absolutely. It could really pave the way for more nuanced and inclusive storytelling where,
Mhm.
an actor's past choices don't define their future possibilities.
And it would really be a testament to her talent and her resilience. I mean, to be able to navigate such different industries and achieve success in both is truly remarkable.
For sure. And speaking of sharing her story, she's also working on a memoir, which is really exciting.
Yeah, she's been hinting at that for a while now, and I'm really curious to see what she reveals. I think it could be a really impactful book, not just for people interested in her career, but for anyone who's ever felt like they need to break free from those norms and, forge their own path.
I agree. I'm interested to hear about her experiences in the adult entertainment industry. I think you could give us all a look into the complexities of that world and challenge the oftentimes very simplistic narratives that we see in the media.
It's an opportunity to humanize an industry that is so often dehumanized, to really explore those individual stories and experiences of the people who work in it.
Right. And I think it has the potential to reach a really wide audience because at its core, it's a story about overcoming obstacles, defying expectations, and living life authentically.
It's a story that really does transcend any particular industry or career choice. It's about the human experience,
Hmm.
about the challenges and also the triumphs of just being true to yourself, even when it means going against the grain.
Yeah, beautifully said. I think that's a great place to kind of pause for a moment before we go into the final part of our deep dive into the life of Maitland Ward. Okay, so we're back and wrapping up our deep dive into the life of Maitland Ward, a story that's, taken us from sitcoms to the world of adult entertainment.
And I think, what we've seen so far is that this isn't about shock value for her. It's about a woman taking control of her own life, her own story, and, defying expectations, advocating for a more open and accepting society.
Yeah, it's been really fascinating to explore. And honestly, her story has really challenged a lot of my own, I guess, preconceived notions about things.
Hmm.
It reminds me that we should never underestimate people's capacity for growth and reinvention.
Oh, absolutely. What really strikes me is just how consistent her message has been, throughout her career, even when you look at it in these like wildly different contexts. I mean, she's always championed self-expression and challenging those societal norms, pushing boundaries. It's pretty amazing.
You're right. It's like she's been on this path the whole time,
Yeah.
just using her platform to spark these conversations, challenge the status quo, and it doesn't even matter what industry she's in.
Yeah, and that's what makes this upcoming memoir so interesting, right? we'll get to hear it straight from her, understand her motivations more fully, really delve deeper into those experiences that shaped her worldview.
I'm so excited to read it,
Yeah.
especially the parts about her time in the adult entertainment industry. I think it'll be really valuable in helping us understand that world. It's something we don't hear a lot about, at least not from that perspective.
Yeah, exactly. It's an opportunity to hear from someone who has not only been successful there, but also used that success to advocate for other people in that industry.
It's about giving a voice to the people who are often, marginalized and challenging the stigma surrounding that kind of work.
And hopefully encouraging readers to approach this topic with more empathy and a better understanding.
So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this. If societal expectations didn't exist, what dreams or aspirations would you pursue more boldly? What parts of yourself would you express more freely? Think about that.
It's a really powerful question, and Maitland's story really shows us that we all have the potential to break free from those limitations that we put on ourselves. We can define our own success, embrace our authentic selves, and create lives that are truly fulfilling.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on another deep dive. We'll be back soon with another fascinating story. Until then, stay curious.